Sons of.
Okay, here we go. Go. On the phone. We should be live, but I don't see. All right, here we go.
But you try to sample just enough not to get in trouble.
Say what?
You try to sample just enough not to get in trouble.
No, I don't care. Fuck it. Fuck it. Man, I get the alerts all the time. They ask me if I have the rights. I'm like, yeah, I do. I just got off the phone with Scott LaRock. He said, do you, player? I mean, they can police beats, but they can't stop child trafficking. Fuck this system. Oh, here it is. Oh, let's see. See, there's
What's up, David? It's ginger. Do you ever drink that like granulated? You ever drink that?
Huh? You talking over
that?
the intro music. You just messing my whole system up. But go on.
Well, somebody, Erica asked me a question. That it's like that granulated ginger tea. It's kind of like a powder.
No.
Really
I drink the cheap ginger tea that comes like 70 little bags in a box. I drink the cheap stuff, man. I ain't got time for that. I'm not Asian. I don't have to do it the right way.
What's really good?
Oh wait, is it time?
Yeah.
Is it 8 o'clock yet? Oh, it's 8. All right. Let me fade out the fade. All right, we've officially started. This is, of course, BroDiallo broadcast with the first time for the Q&A, questions, comments, and criticism. Very first time we've ever had a guest. It's usually me jawboning, but since this show, the special emphasis or topic is on veganisms and all related topics to veganism, from animal rights to environmentalism to health and nutrition, any topics, you can still ask whatever questions you want, like a normal Q&A, but we're going to give preference to questions related to veganism. So welcome, Deeda, if you want to give a little insight about yourself before we really get into it.
Sure. I guess the reason I was asked to be a part of this was because I'm a vegan. Been a vegan for, I'm guessing about 20, 25 years. So you imagine back that long ago, and I was living in Virginia in the South. I didn't even know what vegan was, but it was very popular. You knew what vegetarian was.
Right.
And it started working its way into pop culture, like, through rap music, like KRS-One, and that kind of stuff. The Smiths had a whole album, Meat is Murder. So I was familiar with not eating meat. And like most people of my generation, first thing to go was that pork. Right. Mama, I don't eat pork no more, mama. And, it was just a gradual decrease. And once I cut out all the meat, I realized I still would get, wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning having to use the bathroom really bad after I ate a cheese pizza or had some ice cream.
Right.
Now I'm like, it's the dairy too. So once I stopped eating that, I felt so much better. You know, and I ate like that for a really, really long time. And, you know, I was dating a young lady, and she said to me, she's like, "Oh, you're a vegan." Had never really heard the word before.
Yeah, same thing. Exact same thing.
So in my ignorance, I'm like, hold on now. Watch your mouth. So once she explained it to me, I was like,
Yeah, I experienced the same thing. A sister I was dating who was a vegetarian, and I was like, "Oh, I'm a vegetarian too." And she said, "No, you're a vegan. I'm a vegetarian," and that's how I learned out. Same, you know.
Right.
This
was, you know, before the internet.
Yeah.
Knowledge.
I was reluctant to say vegan, but I eventually acquiesced. But also, this is a show for questions, comments, and criticism, so it's gonna come all ways. So you were gonna tell Erica about the tea. And she wanted to know where you got it from.
Good question.
You just drinking stuff, you know, it just was on your doorstep. Dude.
My wife bought it.
Oh, okay. All right. So here's the first. I don't know. It's not a question. It's kind of a comment. That's why y'all bald, I guess, assumed to veganism. Also, if you're watching on Facebook, you know, it's only okay. So, okay, that's the first comment. Is there any link that you know of between male pattern baldness and adopting a vegan diet?
No, there's no correlation. It's genetic and age.
Yeah, but you know, baldness comes from your mother's side, not your father's.
Yeah,
so it's passed down through the mother's bloodline. So
I mean, you know, I'm an adult. I'm an old man. I'm 50 years old this year. So, but what I will say is that in high school, because I have a lot of gray hair. In high school, when I was still eating a standard American diet, my hair was starting to turn gray. I had some grays in high school. So I've never seen any correlation between baldness and veganism.
Yeah, nor have I, but I mean, if that makes him feel better, if he thinks that
I have lots of hair other places.
That gristle, if he thinks that gristle and cow pus gonna keep him keep his hair on his head, good luck with that. Also, is the sound okay of everyone? Is Deeda reverberating through? Thinking now maybe I should have some headphones. But if the sound is okay, if there's no feedback, let me know. Sister Nadira said good evening to you. So any questions, comments, criticism? Again, it doesn't have to be veganism, but those will get bumped to the top if they do come in. So let us know. I see people are slowly populating the YouTube live, and I know Facebook be trying to trick me up. They like to make it private, so I have to watch Facebook.
Oh, okay. Probably because you using the music.
Hey man, listen, you can't. I'm anti-intellectual property. You can't like Flavor Flav. You can't copyright no beats. They were like, "Oh, yes, we can."
Well, I heard KRS One say one time on a video that anyone can use his music. They were talking about sampling.
Huh? That's noble.
Yeah.
All right.
Why not?
First question: do y'all think veganism is for everyone, body, blood type, etc.? I'll start. I say no, because if you're an Inuit living at the Arctic Pole, I don't think you could have a veganism. I think veganism is for everyone who lives in an environment where they have access to vegan, an abundance and variety of vegan foods, which accounts for the vast majority of people. But there are people who lives or what they call extremivores, humans that live in extreme environments, mainly the like the Inuit or Eskimo people, people who live in frigid, or people who live what they would call modern primitives, who live in environment in Mediterranean or seasonal environments where that's not possible. But for the vast majority of humanity, I think absolutely. And I think everyone who lives in an industrialized, centralized government with an industrialized economy and a modern distribution system, I think it is appropriate and moral for every single person who lives under those conditions to be vegan. As far as eating for blood type, I don't think that's really a scientifically sound concept that you eat according to your blood type. But every blood type, body type, and everyone should be vegan that lives within an industrial food production and distribution system. So
Well, that's a good point. Usually when I hear what about the Inuits, or what about the tribe, the
right.
Maasai, it's usually from people who don't come from those environments.
Right.
But there's nothing nutritionally that we need to get from animals as human beings. So even people who live in these extreme environments wouldn't suffer as a result of eating plants. They developed adaptations, but also if you look at the data, particularly I looked at not the Maasai, but the Inuit mostly. And, prior to heavy Western influences on their diet, they had a really short life expectancy, and they suffered from all diseases that we contemporarily suffer from. Right. So, yes, in extreme environments, you have to, do what you have to do to survive. But it's for humans to function at our peak performance, our optimal performance. Plants are exactly what our bodies need. So.
All right. So now, Kadir, can you see the questions too?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. So I'll let you take the lead on this one.
Okay. You're gonna make me get my glasses.
Oh, no. Then I can read it. Okay. Kadir asks, would you consider the term vegan or vegetarian an integrationist movement? The term an integration movement due to the conception and origins of the word, and as well as the history of plant-based lifestyle in non-white communities, etc. ITAL.
Sure. To me, that to be quite frank, it just kind of boils down to semantics. Like, whatever you call it, if you call it ITAL, and you're eating plants, then it's ITAL. I wouldn't personally get too hung up on, because like I said, I was doing it way before I had even heard vegan, and my influences for a plant-based diet didn't come through Western modalities. Actually, that's why they call it SAD, Standard American Diet. That's the standard that the West pushes. Vegetarian and veganism predates Western culture. There's cultures who came to the same conclusion outside of Western influences. A great example are the Jans, who they have a plant-based diet, and they even go a step further. To a lot of them even wear masks and walk with a broom to brush away any insects. That there's people, cultures, in the East and all over where. So yeah, me personally, I wouldn't get caught up on the terms, and because of how I think we were introduced to it in pop culture. Like I was saying before, we predate kind of like the internet. So a lot of the information we got, because me and Diallo have talked about this, a lot of information we got about veganism came from different sources. you know, African people, Black people. So it's just contemporarily, it just in pop culture, that's just where a lot of us got, the information or the first hearing it, But if you go back,
well, for me, I think it's the opposite. I think Europeans are the most meat-centric culture that I've come across, except maybe Japan for certain geographical and historical reasons. But European is at least in the top 5 most meat-centric cultures. I mean, blood pudding, kidney pie. So I think that I know when my adopting of a vegan diet was in rebellion against America and the standard American diet, and reading books, How to Eat to Live. And if you read a lot of even Eurocentric or European vegan advocates like Professor Arnold Ehret, these were individuals who were in open rebellion. These are white scientists and white advocates who were in open rebellion against their own culture and anti-colonial cultures and cultural impositions of Europeans. So no, I think I've heard this so much, everything that we try to paint things that our community actually got from Europeans as being Afrocentric, like atheism, all that's the white man's science, white man's belief system. And then people say, oh, veganism is Eurocentric. I could argue there are certain merits to the argument about the class element in terms of it being something that is more elitist, but that's just due to access and education more so than overall culture. But no, it's not integrationist. And if you become a vegan and start to eat a vegan diet and live a vegan lifestyle, you'll see that you're slowly segregated and separated from the dominant culture. Becoming a vegan doesn't further integrate you into the oppressor's culture. It separates you. And most of the European vegans are counterculture white people who don't follow. So I think it's just the opposite in terms of and there's a higher percentage per capita. There are more Black people adopt vegan and plant-based diet than Europeans. It's more of us than them per capita. So I think in all those directions, I say no, it's the opposite. Nadira states that I've seen people get sick, and personally, I know someone who's been vegan for over a decade, and the person has developed autoimmune condition. Well, I worked in a hospital for 13 years in trauma centers and recovery centers, and I've seen meat eaters develop severe conditions. I'm not sure if I just don't see how autoimmune disease can be tied to a vegan diet, or if it's related to this person's diet. So I'm not really sure what the connection there is. And yes, vegans do get sick. Vegans develop acute and chronic diseases. And guess what? We even die. But and we lose our hair. Right. So vegans are still human beings. Even though you reduce your potential and exposure to certain ailments and chronic diseases, and you statistically can expand your lifestyle if you practice a certain types of vegan diets. But yeah, anyone that's trying to sell you on veganism as some sort of immunity to all conditions and some immortality, they're hustling you.
Yeah. Right. I'm not a doctor, obviously, so I'm not giving medical advice, but there's no nutrients that we have to get from animals. Everything we as humans need nutrition wise, we can get from plants. So what my casual observation is that what can happen with a lot of people, and really good point Diallo made, is like, you're going to get sick. It's not a magical panacea. It's really, veganism is an ethical choice that a person makes, more or less, and it's not necessarily guaranteed, because you can be a junk food vegan, you can be a raw food, a whole food plant-based vegan. You could be a junk food vegan, or you can be
I ain't got a lot. I ain't even got a lie, Craig.
Right, but it's more about that. But what I'll say is, like, a lot of times people become vegan, and there's a lot of fad diets even in veganism. So a person could easily start off becoming a vegan, and so just imagine when you ate more of a standard American diet. When you become a vegan, you have the opportunity to eat more to get as many calories. So a lot of times people become vegan and they end up in a calorie deficit because they're quite frankly, they don't know how to eat yet. And, you know, you can end up getting sick and hurting yourself because you're not taking in enough calories. It's really important, you know, to eat enough, because you can eat more plants than you can eat meat, volume wise. So that can be also a factor. But yeah, you're not guaranteed not to get sick. I mean, there's a lot of things that people, particularly early on, if you're depends on how you transition as well. If with anything, if you just stop one day and start eating salads for every meal, your body's going to have an adjustment.
It's always curious to me that when a vegan gets sick, it's because of veganism. But the 98% of the population, when they get sick, it's because of the disease, you know, that they got or age. That's always been curious to me. It's even, I was just posting an article about this celebrity vegan chef who killed his wife and his child. And every single article that I pulled up said vegan kills wife, vegan kills child. When I never see the diet mentioned, you know, barbecue enthusiast murders family. So I think, again, I'm not saying that I don't think that there's no evidence tying a vegan diet to autoimmune diseases, but vegan diet also will not make you immune to autoimmune diseases, whether it's chronic or you were born with it or it's environmental. But I wouldn't attribute it to the vegan diet. So. And she asked, what about endomorphology? Would that be more sustainable? What is endomorphology? Is that eating insects? I think that's eating insects. We'll come back to that if we can look that up, because I think that means to eat insects. But we'll move on to the next one. I'll let you lead with this. Is there any expression of atheism from a cultural, historical perspective on the African continent?
Well, my go-to answer for that question that I seem to get a whole lot is that of course it is, because it depends on how you look at it. Every child born into this world is an atheist. We're all atheists, whether we're African or Europeans, up until a particular point. You know, you can be born into a religious family, but that doesn't make you able to perceive or conceive of a God or even what they're talking about. So yes, but also every African was considered an atheist prior to contact with the Europeans.
Yes, that's the first thing that if you read what the colonizers, whether they're Arab or European colonizers, would call us godless savages.
Right.
They didn't just call us savages. They said we were godless savages. So if you're coming from an Islamic or Christian perspective or any world religion perspective, yes, most Africans would have qualified as atheistic because, and what they called these godless African religions were called animists, like the Twa people and the Pygmy or the AKA Pygmy people. They didn't have a concept of a almighty creator or even a supernatural God, but they understood that there were elements, you know, that had certain mystic folklore and mythologies, and all cultures have folklore and mythology. Even I, as an atheist, I follow certain myths and folklores to inform myself, to remind me of certain values that I hold to, or even for pure entertainment. So yes, there were atheistic in terms of cultures that had no formal structure for belief, and especially no rites or rituals related to a supernatural theistic being. So yes, and our oppressors are, and if you look at the African continent, some of the strongest religious traditions are directly related to colonization and interacting with alien cultures.
Yeah. And also you got to look at it, atheism is pretty consistent. Its expression is pretty consistent now and in history. So right. Now there's only what 5% maybe of the population who identifies atheists. I might even be inflating that number. Right. So in any culture, I guarantee you there's bound to be some guy, some lady who's sitting there like, I really don't buy this. No matter what religion or thought that people are culturally exposed to, there's going to be someone who's not buying it, because that's how religions change in general. Right. You know, and there's going to be, you can't possibly imagine that throughout the history of mankind, no person ever said to themselves, this has got to be a load of BS. Only a European had that thought. I mean, it's really insulting to the genius of African people. And to assume, also, just let me make this one point. To assume that no African throughout antiquity ever thought to say, hey, maybe I don't agree with what they're saying. I mean, and just like in modern society now, people are just like, not the vast majority of people, but, you know, there's always going to be a fringe of people who don't agree with the overarching religion of a culture.
Right. And you have to understand that even the spiritualist Africans, Dogon, the committed tree of life, or the Asar Set system, and Yoruba, and, you know, the different spiritual beliefs, they were not what you would call world religions, or more accurately, imperialist religions. Meaning that if you look at Islam and Christianity and the other religions that we all are forced to live under, there was inquisitions. Like, if you did not accept the belief, if you go back and read Iceman's Inheritance, or go look at my report on it, where religious violence or religious motivated violence to try to impose religion on someone or get someone to switch or denounce their religion didn't exist in pre-colonial Africa. So where you don't have formalized imposition of religion, you don't really develop formalized responses or counter responses, such as articulated atheism. You know, you could just be an atheist and go about your life. If you didn't want to go to the ritual, if you didn't have an ancestral or an Orisha shrine within your home, nobody cared, you know. Right. Whereas in Europe, if you didn't have the right God, people would literally cut your tongue out or rip your breast off. In the Islamic world, if you didn't have the right God, you could be boiled alive or cut to ribbons. So the reason why atheism was such a noted part of their culture is because of the horrendous things that happened there. It's the same thing with like the gay rights movement in the cultures, such as in parts of Asia, where they had the Fa Fini, where it was no big deal. You don't need a gay rights movement when you don't have gay persecution. You don't need an atheist movement or an atheist identity when there is no religious imposition. So I think that's why a lot of people are like, well, oh, no, Africans was atheists. Well, there was no atheist movement in Africa as it appeared in other parts of the world because of the imposition wasn't there. And so Nadir says personally, I'm sorry.
No, that's a good point.
Sister Nadir states, personally, I have an intolerance to legumes. So when I tried to adopt veganism, I was so weak. I am also gluten and carb sensitive. So personally, it is difficult.
Well, what do you eat? Because, and I'm just joking, but I hear that a lot from people. And I don't know you and I don't know your situation. So I can only speak to my own experience. When I hear people who claim to have these allergies to very common healthy foods, a lot of time allergy means I don't like it. I don't like the way it tastes, you know, and this is just my experience. I mean, you know, you could legitimately be the very one-off person in the history of mankind who has an intolerance to legumes. It's, people have allergies. Fine, don't eat legumes. There's thousands of different types of vegetables a person can eat. And you have to also keep in mind that there are necessities, vitamins, minerals, nutrients that we can only get from plants as human beings. So I don't know. I mean, if you have a problem eating legumes, don't eat them. Gluten, don't eat it. Carbs, don't eat them. I don't know. But I would just say, what are you eating then? Because where do you get your zinc from? Where are you getting your manganese? Vitamin C. Where are you getting that kind of stuff from? Because those are
where are you getting your fiber?
Fiber. These are things that are found only in plants. I mean, so I don't know. But I hear that a lot from people. And to me, from my experience and my casual observations of them, it's just like, I don't like tomatoes. So I have a tomato intolerance. I don't like the way, pineapple tastes. I have a pineapple allergy. I mean, but yeah, I mean, you have to eat some type of plants.
Right. And also many of the elements that you find in plants, like such as gluten and soy, the micronutrient and microchemical compounds that you find in those plants are present in the meat because those animals are reared on the meat. The vast majority of the grains, the gluten, the soy that's grown in the United States is rendered into animal feed. Corn. I think less than 17% of the grains grown in the United States are fed to humans. The vast majority is fed to animals. And so a lot of times those allergens can jump. And there are over, right now, just in the United States, over 1,500 plants and fruits, identified plants and fruits that are available for human consumption across markets. So if you still want to be a vegan diet, but you have some certain sensitivities, if you try to go to like your local Caribbean or African market, you can get cassavos, edos, plantain. Go to Asian markets. There's a lot of exotic, what we call exotic, fruits and vegetables that you can consume, and even different types of nuts and beans. So you have much more variety, because meat eaters generally in the United States eat chickens, cows, and hogs. That's 3 items to eliminate from your diet. And if you can't build a diet around the exclusion of those 3 animals and their excretions, i.e. milk, then you can also meet with a nutritionist and get specific allergens, and if it's something you're really committed to. But I've seen, like Deeda mentioned, frugarians and raw foodists and things of that nature. So there's always multiple alternatives.
You just have to figure out, what's available to you. I mean, kale. Right. Kale's not a starch, it's not a legume. I mean, there's so many things. But yeah, give it a try.
And William Kane asks, BroDiallo, have you ever heard of Frank B. Wilkerson and Afro-pessimism? Yes, I have, and I don't generally agree with it. With the idea or the philosophy or the historical ideal or philosophical perspective of Afro-pessimism, which is basically the concept that our identities and our reality is born out of colonization and slavery and our hardship. I don't really agree with that. And I'm really, but I'm not an expert in it. Maybe I can look into it more, but from my initial introduction to it, it was never very attractive or even truly applicable to me and my experience as being an African people. Like Dale Jones said, it's a privilege to be African. It's wonderful to be Black. I wouldn't choose nothing else. So I'm not pessimistic about being Black. And Dick Gregory said, they don't treat us the way they treat us because we Black. They do it because they're white. So I would think that it'd be more appropriate to be Euro-pessimistic than Afro-pessimistic. If you wanted to touch on that.
I couldn't add anything to that. That was a really good point. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. It's not our fault. Right. It's everybody else's fault.
So Brother Kadir states that I was thinking about the animal whites, and in parentheses he put animal rights folks, and how some white dude in the UK gets credit for coining the term vegan, as well as the corporatized vegan labeling, which I guess make veganism a white thing. Animal rights, and white men came up with the name of it, and you can get a lot of vegan products from corporations now.
Sure. Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
go on.
Yeah, I'll be brief. Like me personally, I don't have that hang up. If it's valid, whoever it comes from is valid, you know. But like again, I said, I'm not caught up on labels. I just use it because that's the familiar nomenclature of the time. And if I say I'm vegan, people get it. And I can, you know, as opposed to if I use a word that people aren't familiar with, then, you know, I have to spend an extra 10 minutes explaining the ins and outs of it. So I personally, I'm not hung up on it. And we live in a capitalist society, man. Like, of course, the corporations are going to cash in on things because things that become popular. Look at anything that we bring into the realm of the world. I mean, all the great athletes are Black people, but they get exploited by corporations. You know, all the great musicians are Black people, and they get exploited by corporations. So of course,
stop playing music and sports.
Right. I give up. You know, no. I mean, it's the world we live in. So, like Diallo said, instead of attacking ourselves, let's attack the system.
Mm. Well, Sister Marie says it's more important to be vegan philosophically in terms of animal sentience or just plant-based. Now, on my side, I am a firm advocate for animal rights. So I think that you can't be one without the other. I think you really can't be a full vegan if you are not an advocate and a practitioner of the rights of animals. I'll turn it over to you.
Well, I mean, that comes with the label. That's part of the understanding of what a vegan is. Plant-based is more like your diet. You know, they're not mutually exclusive, but they're not necessarily. Veganism and plant-based aren't mutually exclusive, but they're not the same thing. Plant-based, when you talk about plant-based, you're talking about your diet. You eat plants. Vegan is a moral and ethical stance on how we treat others, you know, other sentient beings, other animals. And vegans do their best to not cause harm, suffering, exploitation to other sentient beings. So I don't think it's one or the other. It's just some people aren't willing to make that ethical commitment. They're not willing to make that moral commitment, but they want to eat plants. I think it's fine. I mean, you know, what can I do? I would want everybody to have an ethical approach, be empathetic to others, but, you know, they're not mutually exclusive to me.
Right. And William Kane states that veganism is an ethical lifestyle against factory farming. It's not a cruel. It's not a cure-all. It's not a cure-all. Though with veganism, your health risks are lowered. I agree with that, but also it's not just factory farming. It's any level, even low-level exploitation of animals, horse racing or horse riding, or the consumption of leather products and any type of abuse, the ownership of exotic pets, things of that nature, non-domesticated pets and things of that nature. So it is factory farming, but even if you're old McDonald, you're still being an asshole because you could use that land for cultivation of plant foods. You don't need to cultivate and slaughter animals and steal their excretions for your sustenance. So it's factory farming and old McDonald. Right.
And, us as individuals, how how we interact with each other. I mean, interact with animals, you know, because it's a, you know, just in subtle ways. I think with me, in subtle ways, is just changing your thinking. So as opposed to me viewing my dogs as my dogs, it's more like, you know, we're taking a commitment to be care providers for these animals, you know. But that's just a subtle mental shift, and it you know, it helps you just interact differently with other sentient beings. She
So
said,
yeah, Nadir
eating
had
insects.
asked, yeah, she had asked the question if eating insects or consuming replacing animal protein with insects is more sustainable.
Is it more sustainable?
Yes.
Yeah, it's probably more sustainable until it becomes a factory farm endeavor. Then I'm sure you know, be cutting down rainforests to plant whatever tree, you know.
All right.
So to me, I think it's again, it's like a lot of times we attack kind of like the victim of something instead of the cause of it. So the problem's capitalism. Like they'll figure out a slick way to make anything miserable.
Right.
So we gotta, you know, but I would say if the way it is, if people were compared to chopping down the rainforests of Brazil for cattle ranching, or leave the rainforests up and people go in there picking bugs to eat, it absolutely is more sustainable. Would I participate in it? No. I mean, we have no reason to eat bugs. There's no nutrition that we need from bugs.
Right. Yeah, leave that for the toads. And also there is insects are already a major part of the industrialized food system. In China, they harvest flies and tons of maggots to grind up into fertilizer. There are several beetles and sea crustaceans, which would classify for sea insects, that are used in dyes and cosmetics. So there
Food colorings.
maybe,
I don't know if they still do that.
yeah, the shiny the beetle shells and shit.
The lacquer, that lacquer
Yeah.
that they put on some confections.
Yeah. Well, they don't do that anymore.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think they do. Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
I can't think of the label name they give it.
Yeah, they don't say bug shells, but yeah, that's so. I'm just saying they do use many insects. And honey is probably the most commercialized insect product or byproduct. So they do use it, but using meat would be sustainable in terms of reducing carbon outputs and ecological impacts. But I don't think it would be as ethical. I still think it would still
compared to veganism is less ethical, but it would be more sustainable than cattle ranching. Sure.
Right. Kadir says you have fewer options with a meat-centric lifestyle. Even with plant sensitivities, you still have more options. I think that was him talking to Kadir, which I agree with you. You know, I eat a lot. I don't know a meat eater that has a more varied diet than me.
I was earlier. I was scrolling through Facebook, and a sister asked, "Does anybody use their what do they call, like a crock pot slow cooker?" Said, "I need some meal ideas." And you know, she said what she had been cooking in it so far, and she lists about 4 different things that she's cooked in it so far, and all of them had chicken in it. I was like, you can almost give her any suggestion.
Right.
No to honey.
Honey, yes or no?
It's a thumbs down for me.
When I had a vegan restaurant, we learned that honey has been classified by the vegan community as virtually vegan, which means you won't be ousted from the community.
Almost there. You're almost there.
You won't be ousted or condemned, but you know, if you have a way around it, you should probably practice.
There's plant-based honeys.
That's a new term called virtually vegan. But I would say
there's plant-based honeys.
Right. But if I saw, yeah. But if I saw a vegan person who said they're vegan and I saw them put some honey in something, I wouldn't slap it out their hand, but I'd be, so yes
Right.
and no. But no,
I'd say
says yes, no. I say, if you don't have other options, I guess. I don't know.
I'd say, it's like one of those things where it's like that's literally on the fence, but it's almost like milk too,
I say no to milk though.
Right. So I say no to honey. So it's almost like the same
Well,
thing.
I mean,
It's
bees
a
don't have
bodily
udders.
secretion of an insect.
Yeah, but it's nectar based. It's
Bee
it's
vomit.
plant nectar based, but it's plant nectar based. It's
And
not.
it's food for the baby bees. It's not food for you, my friend.
Yes, but it's plant nectar. It's processed plant nectar. It's concentrated plant nector.
So is milk. Milk is processed grass and whatever other things.
Okay. This is how vegans battle. Y'all watching a vicious conflict here.
We're having what we call beef.
If there's ever a vegan world war, stay off the internet.
Hey, wait a minute.
So much.
It's a very polite conflict. Too. Like, well, I mean,
this is how vegans be. Okay, the next 4411825 ask, is there any relationship to creating a humane, egalitarian society and reducing our exploitation and brutality of other higher organisms, animals?
Humane. I think that would be a good place to start. So when I hear stuff like that, it always makes me think about Star Trek,
right?
And how Star Trek in the future, they had plant-based diet. So, yeah, I mean, if we were to evolve socially, I think that would be an important component because it's empathy, it's altruism, and we are animals. It's not really animals. It's other animals other than ourselves. So
I in my study of history, I've never found a society or culture or economy that had a disregard for animals and the natural ecosystems that also treated its citizens or residents of that society humanely. Every single humane, egalitarian, socialistic society always had a high level of consideration for both the animal species that they shared their environment with and the ecosystems and biodiversity of that society. So I don't think you can have one without the other. We can't have a just humane society treating human beings with value while turning animals or the living world around us into a commodity. That's my conclusion.
And they always say, they always say about about serial killers.
Oh yeah, exactly.
They start with
animals. And so what do you call a society that mechanizes the torture and mistreatment of animals? William Kane states that insect populations are collapsing, though. That's a very bad thing. So I don't think we should eat them. I agree for that reason.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah.
Kandake say, can you please do a live with Grimlocks? Yeah, I have to he's in Australia. So I'm willing to. I'm going to contact him because his research is very interesting. But he's also, as soon as we get our time zones worked out, I'll work on that. There are plenty of nutritious and see Nadir, go on in. If you want to eat the crickets, eat the crickets. Well, maybe if you ate invasive, destructive insects like locusts and bed bugs.
Yeah, I'd invite you over to my house and you can sit in my garden.
Okay, Nadir, we're gonna give you a pass. I'm gonna work one and print one out for you and sign it because Nadir keeps going back to the bugs.
Well, Nadir, I conceded the point compared to factory farming and deforestation. Sure. But
she wants to eat bugs. Just
she probably ate those chocolate covered crickets or something.
No, okay, Nadir, maybe it's just a pure curiosity, but I've never eaten a bug on purpose. Um, in Kadir, as in teaching and raising the consciousness of ourselves and our people, what do you think about the use of dialectical questioning to counter persistent indoctrination and propaganda? You want to go first, or?
Well, I mean, it's like, it depends on your interlocutor. You know, it's that's effective when you have a willing interlocutor that you can actually get honest answers from. But it's kind of a difficult approach. I think it's very helpful. It can work really, really well, but I don't know.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I think that it is crucial, but I think that dialectical analysis has to be married to a certain aesthetic. It has to be embedded in the way we dress, our music, our entertainment and outlets. I think that it can't be locked into academic. You can't simply explain to someone. And we have to start to work, the few of us who are conscious, we have to start creating conditions in our environment that reflect our level of consciousness and our understanding. Because so that we have to start living according to our ideas and making our ideas manifest before the larger community. And I think that does more. People seeing us live out our ideas more so than listening to us articulate them and dissect and reconstruct them has an impact. I think both of them are necessary. They have to be wedded. And I think there's an old concept called make the road by walking the road. So we beat down those pathways by doing a multifaceted approach, or what I call a multi-tentacled approach, where you employ everything in terms to create what is called, counter indoctrination and counter propaganda. So yes, on all that.
Yep.
Lisa's just saying hi.
Oh, what's up? What's up? She just accepted my friend request.
Oh, that's nice.
Today.
Cauliflower beef. Okay. I've been seeing the internet beets. Mocking that.
Beets, B-E-E-T, beets, T-S, beets.
I've seen those cauliflower fried chicken wings. Have you had those?
The buffalo cauliflower.
The cauliflower wings, right? They're like cauliflower made to look like buffalo wings.
Mm-hmm.
You know what weirds me out?
I like those. They're good.
People say that kind of stuff like, "Oh, that's gross." You tell you're going to give me some cauliflower, that's gross. And then somebody had put a carrot into a hot dog bun and said, "This is a vegan hot dog," and everybody was grossed out. But I'm like, you think a carrot in a hot dog bun, but rendered cow testicles, tongues, and organs, that doesn't grow. So what people say gross. All right. So back to another question. Let's get back to the questions. Marie asks, do GMOs have a place in veganism?
You want to go or me?
Right. Number one, I am an organic, non-GMO vegan. My problem with GMOs is that they were generally invented for the increase of profit, such as Terminator seeds coming out of Monsanto, Cargill, ADM. These multinational food corporations constructed GMO to further commodify food. And if you look at the GMO crops, these aren't even the crops that, like, you have corn, several corn species that are threatened by global warming and several other plant species that are under threat by global warming. But because they are not commodity and cash crops, they don't apply any research to making those plants more resilient. It's tofu, it's corn, it's salmon, it's for profit. So even if you aren't afraid or aren't concerned about the potential health risk of GMOs, the fact that if you buy GMOs, you are furthering and advancing the commodification and turning the natural living world and natural living process into copywritten and patented products. So I think that it goes against the fundamental concepts of veganism. And I think that anyone who adopts a vegan diet or a non-vegan diet, because my sister-in-law, she's not vegan, but she's strictly organic and non-GMO. She buys her grass-fed beef and all that nonsense, but she doesn't consume GMOs and she doesn't consume. So I think I say no, GMOs don't have a place in veganism. And all that rhetoric about, oh, we're making the food able to endure climate change. We're making food so that they can grow it and we're feeding the world. They told that lie. The most GMO heavy place in the world that has the most GMO crops under cultivation is India. And if you listen to Arundhati Roy and what's the scientist? Her name escapes me. Vandana Shiva. If you look at her research, it's creating food instability in India. So the lies that they tell us to promote GMO they've been proven scientifically and economically to be false. So I say no.
What I normally see when people start talking about GMOs is that they don't really understand what they are. A lot of times when people talk about GMOs, they're referring to hybrids. So a lot of people, a hybrid isn't a genetically modified organism. Right. So that always causes a conflict. But yeah, those are all really good points. And most of the genetically modified foods are fed to animals, farm animals. So yeah, you don't run into it a whole lot in general. But I mean, there are certain things that are in our food system that are genetically modified, but the vast majority of them are fed to animals. So once again, it's to me, it's another point in the vegan column, because if you're actually attempting to avoid and not support GMOs, you'd adopt a plant-based diet. But also understanding what the difference between a GMO and a hybrid is. Because me and Diallo, we grow a whole lot of food, and in the summer here in Chicago, and it's like people really don't know the difference between a hybrid and a genetically modified organism. Because the GMO, they genetically modify fish as well.
Yeah,
they do that with animals more directly.
Yeah, I do consume hybrid foods, and I even grow heirloom and certain hybrid tomatoes and other crops, but I avoid GMOs. Hey, we got Frelimo Jackson just being hurtful. He called me skinny. Isaac Hayes said you're hairless, Captain Hairless.
Captain Hairless.
He's just being hurtful.
Well, at least I'm a captain.
He's an artist. You know how egocentric artists are.
No, I don't.
Artists tend to be jerks. So
they couldn't possibly want to paint
just
the
being
world.
hurtful. I shouldn't even click on it. We got positive energy emitting all our chakras in a line. You see my divine light radiating from my bald head. You don't have one. So these hurtful comments.
You said Captain Hairless. That's pretty.
I'm skinny Isaac Hayes.
He asked me at a disadvantage because I don't know what he looks like.
That's kind of like, I'll put one up. But back in the day, his nickname was Fernando. He looks like a Latin assassin lover.
I mean, if I could see Fernando, I could think of some witty comebacks. You old picklehead. You over here, boy.
Let's get away from the hurtful stuff and get back to constructive.
Well, at least I'm a captain, though.
All right. Well, at least I'm a cultural icon. I'm skinny.
Yeah. Yeah. What's wrong with Isaac Hayes? He had all the letters.
Yeah. Chuck Turner is one of my favorite movies of all time.
There you go.
Actually, in to hurt us, he has actually lifted us up.
Right. I feel better about myself. I am the captain.
Harvesting insects on an industrial level from the wild could be very damaging to ecosystems! Exclamation point. Yeah. So yes.
Good point.
Okay, Sister Yolanda states, the irony of living in rural America is the fact that there are farmers everywhere, but very little variety in plants available for purchase. I have to travel 45 miles to find different types of mushrooms, beans, but I have at least five pizza and wings restaurants within 1 to 3 miles.
Wow.
It's very difficult for people who want to do a plant-based diet with that kind of limited access. Monoculture.
Yeah, well, that's the nature of industrial farming, because they're heavily subsidized by the government, so it kind of dictates what crops they want. And unfortunately, in our society, it's never anyone who knows about a thing that's in charge. So yeah, I understand it. She said, you live in rural America? Yeah.
Well, you got some land, Yolanda?
Right. I was about to make the same suggestion. Like,
okay, go on. I don't want to step.
Go on,
Captain Hairless.
Holla at me. I can set you up with some plants, some seeds. But yeah, try to grow your own stuff. But yeah, that's weird. But yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with in a lot of rural areas they're limited because of the subsidies from the government. So it's no incentive to have a lot of variety.
Yeah.
And
them my new word for white folks is Krakens. Them Krakens don't want the variety. They don't want it. Deeda knows I'm not a fan of cauliflower wings.
Oh yeah, we had that conversation. They're delicious. You're missing out.
Well, Alicia said I have made them and they are very good. I love cauliflower wings.
The balance comes in. Yes, sister.
And then Shauna states the only vegan that is against cauliflower wings, it's whack bland broccoli.
You don't have to. I know what your hang up is. It's because it's white. Okay, let's be honest. There are other colors of cauliflower. You can get you some red cauliflower, some purple cauliflower. You got green cauliflower. You don't have to eat white cauliflower.
Rastafari Shango Amin Ra Ngalu states that
I'm about to call you what your mama named you, bro.
See that? You don't call it. See, that's Thomism right there. You can't call his African name.
Okay, Jeffrey. Now what do you have to say?
Rastafari states views on a raw diet. I have been reasoning on it, and I feel that diet is nutrient deficient. I don't feel like someone can't maintain a raw diet till 100. Cooked beans and cooked starches like yam, I think, are very important to your diet. Thoughts?
Yeah, well, it's from what I've seen, my research is that certain foods have to be cooked to get the nutrients out of it. I mean, humans have developed the genetics for eating the biology for eating cooked food. So there's certain foods that you just have to cook to get, because certain foods have these buffers. There's certain components that'll block the nutrients that we need from it. So yeah, like you said, like the certain root vegetables. I know tomatoes, like the lycopene, is more bioavailable if we cook it. Raw diets from, yeah, it's one of those things. Like raw diets, I don't know if I've ever seen it actually work very well for people.
Well, I actually had a raw vegan diet, or even a fruitarian diet. I did it for 2 years. When I met my wife, I was a raw foodist, and she adopted a raw foodist until she got pregnant, and then she went to the Chinese place and got some fried hard French fries because of cravings and just blew that up. But let me tell you this. There's a brother by the name of Woza Vega. They used to call him the Stack Master. And the reason he was the Stack Master is because he would go into gyms and put all the machines on the bottom stack of the hardest level, whatever you call it. What do you call it when you put it at the highest weight on all the stacks, the ab machine, the pull up, roll up, and he could do the top stack. They called him the Stack Master because of that. And if you go back way back to the Dead Prayers Bigger Than Hip Hop video, You see there's a lot of martial arts in there, and the guy with the big locks that's choreographed the martial arts and does some of the martial arts, that's Woza Vega. He's like a buff dude, very strong. And I used to train under him, and he was a raw foodist and ate raw food for years before I met him. And one thing I found out about the raw food diet, and him being he was a professional martial artist and nutritionist, and it consumes your life because you have to sprout, soak. It takes so much time to eat a full diet. If your lifestyle isn't based around food and nutrition and fitness, then it's not really functional. Like I was a student and all that. So I've seen people. There was another guy who was a raw foodist and then became a breatharian for some reason, who would, demonstrate the efficacy of raw foodism by running through the mountains at high levels, low oxygen. So what I've observed about everybody that I know that was able to thrive on a raw food diet, it was their absolute preoccupation.
Yeah, I was about redact my statement a bit because his brother Keedy, who's a raw foodist, but
he's like 60 and just bangs out push-ups like
60 push-ups, right. But
he's a chef. He's around food all day.
And the thing about it is raw food. I was, my mind automatically went to raw food like just fruits and vegetables. But yes, brother Keedy, he has a dehydrator, sprouts, so you're gonna have raw food isn't absent of a process, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. You're gonna have to do, and he's I'm pretty sure he sprouts his lentils. He makes his own flaxseed bread and yada this and that. Maybe might do some. I think I saw him do some sweet potato chips in his dehydrator. Yeah. So you're gonna have to. But just when people say raw food, I think they fail at it because they're just like leafy greens and watermelon.
But like I said, I haven't seen anyone do it successfully when it wasn't their absolute preoccupation. Because Keedy's a chef. So as he's preparing food for other people, like you really got a plan. Like you said, you're sprouting, dehydrating, rehydrating. It's so much time to do it.
It's properly. Deep. So, it's deep. Yeah, you can. But you can do it properly.
And most people I know that did it, that didn't make it their central preoccupation, including myself, did fail at it. So I did it for 2 years. I didn't feel that big of a health difference from being a standard vegan. So, but I gave it a try.
But I'm always like advocating for whole food, plant-based diet. Whole foods. Get your foods as close as they can.
If you want to steam your kale, steam it. You don't want to spend all day chewing.
Right.
And digesting and pooping.
Throw it in a dehydrator, make you some kale chips.
So Marie asks, is hybrid, quote unquote, Sabi nonsense?
No. It's an actual term. Hybridization happens in nature. It's how most of the plants that we eat were developed. Hybridization is just plants biology changing over the course of time.
All right. So that's what Yolanda also asked. What are hybrid foods? Hybrid foods are generally foods that are of the same genus or species that either through natural means or human impact means are changed. Just about all the foods that humans eat from the market have been hybridized. Hybrid foods is nothing like like I just grew some tomatoes that are very resilient that I was able to grow in the cold for much longer than the others. So if I start to cultivate those with some other non-cold resistant tomatoes, and I can kind of work to hybridize those. GMO is literally taking fish DNA and inserting it into a tomato, as opposed to taking a more cold resistant tomato and growing it and culturing it with something that has less cold resistant to try to create one that can survive the cold, but has a certain flavor and texture that you want. So this one is cold resistant, but it has a horrible bitter taste. This one's more sweet, but it's not as cold, but they're from the same species or genesis.
Right.
So you can start to cultivate them together, hoping that they will cross-pollinate and cross-breed as far as plant reproduction goes and pollination to make one. So that's been
like,
going on.
It's like, biology, evolution. So say, just basic evolution in nature. This one plant starts off one way. Every successful generation is going to have a variant in genetics because they're not clones. They have other inputs. So that same plant is started generations later. The other plant thrives because of environmental pressures. That can be an example of hybridization.
Yeah.
I grow
excuse me 1 second. You can go on. I'm just going to step away for 1 second. I just got to grab something. Go on.
I grow a particular strand of tomatoes. And I grow 3 different plants from this one strand of tomatoes. 1 year I grow up and, I like the taste of the second plant from the 3 that I grew, and I saved those seeds. Those seeds are genetically different than the other 2. Then the next year they might get cross-pollinated from another naturally, through insects, and then it has a different property. Then I can also artificially cross-pollinate. We'll just use tomatoes, keep using tomato examples, because I want to see if, this one has like Diallo said, it did better in the winter, but it wasn't that sweet. So this other one was sweet and I cross-pollinated, and, so hybridization is just a natural process. It's not, I don't know. They do some weird things with genetically modified food where they're trying to splice in different genes and stuff like this. Like I said,
unrelated species, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're at the hour mark. We'll try to rapid fire some of these. I'm starting a little garden. I started with house plants to see if I could do it. You have any advice on novice gardening, gardening?
Yeah, I would say definitely start with growing stuff that you actually eat and you enjoy eating. It's better to try, fail, and succeed with stuff that you actually want because your passion will be there. Don't necessarily try to grow stuff that you think, oh, this is easy or everybody grows these. Try to grow the stuff that you want to grow and get interested in that. That'll help sustain it. Start small, and the main thing with, there's basic things with growing plants. It's got to have a good substrate. It has to have really, really good soil. Soil health is really important for the success of any garden. Proper sunlight for the plants and proper moisture. Not too much, you got to know the moisture level. And, the more you figure out those types of things, the more successful you'll be.
Brother Phil says, I recently became a vegan. Oh, and also the dirt, your soil. You want fertile, black, rich soil. Soil is very important in your foundation. So you want to make sure you don't.
I was going to say, get into composting.
Yeah, composting is very easy. 1 billion and one YouTube videos.
But but have it in the back of your mind, like I want to compost, because that's you can create your own soil that way.
Right. Phil states that I recently became a vegan a few months ago. I've been vegetarian for almost 20 years. People keep saying I have a good heart and that's why I age like I do. And I'm like, sure, but diet. Yeah. My family said that my family has this thing called the Jefferson curse, where all the men in my family, are morbidly obese. And they say that the curse skipped me. And that's why I was fortunate to skip this family curse of obesity. So I'm like, okay, yeah. Is there anything else besides a curse that maybe you could point to? But yeah, people like to go to those lists.
I'd also, throw in exercise too. You know,
Yeah.
that's an important component in health.
Shauna Willis, aka Shauna X, that you're right. The white is triggering. She don't eat nothing white.
Yeah,
That's the late Dr. Africa said anything white will kill you. Sugar,
yeah,
bread, rice. Don't eat nothing white. So yeah.
that's
So her militancy not allow her to enjoy cauliflower.
get some purple cauliflower, Shauna.
Another cauliflower endorsement. Cauliflowers are delicious depending if they are nice and crunchy. So, and then
Marina, what's up?
Phil, steamed cauliflower, just put it in a colander strainer, steam for 10 minutes on high. You good? Shauna just ain't got no love. She has no allies here.
Oh, what? How did this turn into a cauliflower?
People sensitive about this stuff. Marlana states that Keely is a raw vegan and swears by it. Another shout out to Baba Keely. I was supposed to debate Keely on the gay agenda. And I had a conflict in my schedule because I was also debating the contract. I hate that I missed it. I would have liked to.
But yeah, Keely is he's the go-to guy, man. If you guys are interested in trying to do a raw food vegan diet, check him out. He has lots of knowledge. He has a cookbook and I think a documentary
called Chew Aside.
Chew Aside, yeah. So check him out. I mean,
yeah,
sure.
It's another cauliflower comment.
I had some for the first time in December, as long as I had some buffalo sauce to dip them in. Oh, so she liked them. Yeah, Yolanda. Shauna, you just ain't right.
Rastafari asked, why did y'all cut the locks? Yeah, I did have locks for many years. And Kitty, you had locks too. Why'd you cut your locks? Man, my locks cut me. I didn't cut them. They really? Cut me first.
I don't know. I mean, for me, it was a lot of different reasons, in retrospect now, they weren't like, I don't know, it wasn't really that deep to me. I think I got to the point where it was just like being identified with something as superficial as a hairstyle was off-putting. But I mean, that was kind of other people's hang up. But for me, I was just like, it wasn't that big a deal, to be honest. It got to that point. I had them for so long, so many years. It was just one of those things. It was, I don't know, I kind of think about it like the Afro hairstyle or the natural. It really was like symbolic. And then as time went on, it became very, very commercialized. And, it's kind of like the impact dwindles a bit, So I think that was kind of where I was at with it at the time. I just had some weird run-ins with people. It was kind of just strange interactions with people. And then once I cut my hair, people stopped bugging me about where the weed was. People stopped bugging me about, asking me these super duper deep questions. And I could sit and read my book on my, without being bothered. I don't know.
Well, I never really grew them for. I'm from Missouri. I didn't never mind for cultural purposes. It was always purely aesthetic. So you'll see periods of me from dating from 92 up until like 2010 where I had locks, I had a fade, I had I had a mohawk. So it was just one of many styles. My wife has locks. Both of my sons have locks. And, the last time I cut them, I was in Kansas City, Missouri. And the last time I cut them, I'm just like, we looking kind of like a cult here. Like everybody got locks. I wanted to stand out and be unique and different from the rest of my family. So
that's something you cut your locks to be different.
Yeah. Like everybody, like my whole family, we go walking down the street and people be like, I'm like, yeah, let me stand out from these people.
But I mean, it's one of those things too, where anything could almost be vanity.
Right.
So even my revolutionary initial righteous Deeda attempt eventually kind of became a vain thing for me. So, because it was like, man, if you cut your locks, bro, like, man, they might kick you out the group type thing. And it's like, people who are cool with me then are still cool with me now. Nobody begrudges me like, brother, you whack, But I'll say socially, people kind of like, no one's paying me any attention, So.
So Kadir asks, what do you think about mycelium and mushrooms? As well as the research around them in use of contaminated soil and remediation.
Yeah, now that's the mycelia in the soil is pretty useful. Like we were just saying about composting. So you want to try your best to create that substrate, that biome that plants are going to thrive in, and so part of that is creating that. So it's you can buy it. It can naturally occur. It's different ways of getting your soil to that point. But yeah, that's the goal, man. If you can dig down in your soil and start seeing that microstructure and all that good stuff going on, and that worms, and I mean, it's
yeah. We eat mushrooms, various, not really the super exotic one, and not the altered state inducing. I mean, just like shiitake and white mushrooms, organic. But I'm very interested in learning more about that, because I was reading this article about mushrooms and myceliums. They some of the oldest, most well-evolved communication systems, global communication systems, and I think the largest known living structure is a mushroom, or no, it was a fungus. Network. Yeah, the largest continuous living creature is like a fungal network. So I think that's good. I hope that again, a lot of times when the health nutrient abatement properties of a natural substance is formed, the first thing that the system does is try to commercialize it. They try to turn it into IP, or intellectual property, and resell it. So every time I get excited about scientific discoveries, I start to worry about commercial exploitation at the same time.
Right.
And mushrooms, they're very good and nutritious.
Mushrooms are delicious.
Yeah. But I've never had the altered state inducing mushrooms. So
I was talking to Phil the other day, your boy from Kansas City.
Yeah.
About magic mushrooms and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a whole community. He was telling me all these people who are into it and their experience. We were talking about out-of-body experience, and it was deep. It was an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
But I've never done
I don't get down like that. Marlena thinks men age out of locks. I'm not sure what that means.
Well, it's no. I mean, I got homies who got locks down to the ground, and we kind of started at the same time. I mean,
I know a lot of old, all white. This used to be. I don't know.
They had a little shoehorn, gent.
Yeah, I know
three dreadlocks hanging on.
Yeah, and beard locks, and So I don't know. I don't think so. But Zai, I'd like to know what kind of socialism he wants and why he thinks that the system is better for our or any people. Who, me? I want scientific socialism. I think that a planned, structured economy and an ecological economy is what I want, and I think it's better because it gives the people who actually generate the wealth a say in how the wealth is distributed, and it prevents the accumulation of wealth and thus a creation of a hierarchy, an exploitative hierarchy and power imbalances, and also socialistic distribution of resources and wealth will prevent conflicts, personal conflicts, regional, national conflicts, and above all, major military conflicts and world wars. It has been proven. So, and also the preservation of ecosystems and biodiversity. And that's why I think it would be better for our people. I think that it should be planned. I think that is, and you also don't have things like planned obsolescence where they create all these phones and they get thrown away within 6 months to a year, and everybody else gets a brand new phone after that. And those phones go into the oceans and then go to third world countries to poison the soil, poison the air, and poison the water. So I'm for scientific socialism or revolutionary socialism. I'm for the abolition of private property. I'm for the militant prevention of wealth accumulation and wealth concentration, for the reduction of conflict, and for the proper development and peaceful development of all people.
Yeah, and
I just threw that in there.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at societies where they have socialist programs, I guess you can say those are the most advantageous programs in that. Communities, societies have certain aspects that are socialist in nature, and those are the most advantageous parts of their. Everybody talks about Canada and universal health care. That's a socialist program. We talk about one of the things that make America great is public schools. Right. When they're functioning properly. That's socialism, the library, so in any markers that we look at where socialism actually is expressed in a society, those are the best parts of that society.
Yeah, V.I. Lenin said that you're going to either have socialism or barbarism. There's really no other options. And if you look at this world as it is dominated by capitalism, capitalism literally defeated communism and socialism back in 1993. And George Bush Sr. said that we were going to have nothing but prosperity and peace from here forward in his 1,000 points of life, because now the free market reigns over the earth. And there's been more conflicts and death and starvation and poverty under the free market domination than we had under the communist onslaught or the communist veil, Iron Curtain, when there were two superpowers with conflicting economic systems versus global capitalist dominance. And so, yeah, that's that. So, yeah, I'm a socialist because...
And he has it in quote marks, though. Is that like something somebody said?
Huh?
He had it in quotation marks. So I was wondering if that was a comment he was quoting somebody.
Yeah, maybe someone else he's speaking for somebody else. Marlena said, y'all get too old. She's judging us not by the content of our characters, but by our physical appearance.
Now, what if we start doing that?
Marlena, we are human beings with emotions.
Right. The same emotions you have. We have the same ones. Don't make me start telling you what Kevin Samuels would say.
Lisa says, your hair is your own personal journey and style.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Wakanda. Exactly. Got me feeling bad.
Stinking hippies. Right. Oh, she just apologized. Too late. Too little, too late.
I even had to cut my hair today because I was feeling self-conscious about my gray. See?
Really? I cut my hair today.
No, it was itching me to death. Like
it starts to grow back. Yeah, that people think I'm bald. I actually do grow hair, but I either have to let it grow or keep it cut, because there's a certain level where it's just like a porcupine.
I get thin on the top, but I also do capoeira, and I'm always like.
Yeah, I had that. I had locks when I started doing capoeira, and I got like this. Right. I thought I was going bald, but then when I, but if you wear a beanie, that'll.
I don't care.
Yeah. Like I said, you let yourself go. Like, who cares? Like, you wearing bifocals, like.
Who am I impressing?
Your wife is stuck. She got 3 kids.
Right. Too bad.
You can stop trying. I'm about to go just drink a beer, stop bathing right now.
Right.
All right, let's see. This is serious. The chicken of the woods. Oh, more Yes, it is true.
Oh yeah.
And my favorite to eat are chicken of the woods. I believe that's a species of mushroom. And yeah,
Yeah,
they're
you
corn smut with
you've
corn.
had that, Quidar?
Huh?
I haven't had the chicken of the I've been seeing it, but I'd be interested to try. But I'm not going out into the woods trying to identify it. But I haven't seen it on the market like that. It hasn't popular yet.
All right, we can start to why people are basically saying good night. Lisa says good night. Nadir the bug eater says she's going to bed. She got to go to work.
She's just very.
Marlena has apologized for objectifying us.
That's
so
cool.
Let's leave on that good note that the sisters acknowledge their oppression and suppression of the male body. Now I'm gonna get in trouble. I can't joke. Now,
First of all, we've been getting made fun of the whole. We've been getting called bald headed. Isaac Hayes, Captain.
Right. Yes, I will upload them. I thought I was doing that, but I definitely will put everything on Patreon, all the stuff on Patreon. Absolutely. Shout out to my Patreons. Wouldn't be here without y'all. Now I just got to queue up. So if you want to tell people they want to continue to follow you and get insights and humor and watch your horrible aging process without loss, how do they follow you or keep up with you?
Yeah, so Deeda Bam on Instagram. So check it out because I've been trying to get people interested in doing Indian clubs and steel mace, gata, swinging. So it's a really cool way to exercise, for us older gentlemen. It's a throwback way. So yeah, check me out, Deeda Bam on Instagram or Facebook. I use my government name, which is Charles Fletcher D. Shields. So.
Marlena wants you to also share where you get your equipment from. Well, if you follow him, you see he makes a lot of it.
Yeah, I make a lot of it.
I appreciate this is my first co-hosted Q&A. I appreciate you coming through. We're going to be doing one on atheism. I'm definitely going to reach Grimlocks to see if we can line up the time zones to do something with and talk to him about his Aboriginal and Pan-African research. So appreciate y'all. Y'all good night. I'll be ending the broadcast. Thanks for everyone. Shout out to my Patreon at Deeda Bam or Deeda Bam Kid on YouTube. If you want to continue to follow and learn from our good brother Deeda. And that's that, I guess. I don't know. If you want to just hang out and listen to the outro music for a little while.
The questions are still coming in. We can't let people go. All right, party people, good night.
All right, peace, Deeda.
All right, peace.